Haru was a brainless delinquent who scared everyone away with his violent temper. But when the smartest girl in school sees his hidden potential, she becomes obsessed with taming him and secretly wants him to clap her brains out. It all started when Haru picked a fight with upperclassmen on the first day of school and suddenly stopped showing up to class. Since a girl named Shizuku sat closest to him, their teacher asked her to deliver Haru's handouts. Later, Shizuku arrived at Haru's home only to find him causing trouble again. However, when Haru realized Shizuku was there for him, he jumped out of the window. Confused, Shizuku handed his cousin Mi the handouts and dipped. However, on her way out of the complex, Haru suddenly pulled her into a missionary position and demanded to know if she was a spy for the school. But she told him she only came to drop handouts. This made him excited because it felt like that moment when someone was sick and a friend came to give them handouts. And as she left, he asked for her name because he thought they were now friends. Shizuku returned to the teacher, and the teacher was curious about how Haru acted toward her. Shizuku mentioned that he called her a friend, surprising the teacher, who immediately asked if Shizuku could persuade him to come back to school. However, Shizuku gave a straight-up no and left because she didn't want to have anything to do with that thug. Later that day after school, Haru suddenly pulled Shizuku to a corner and told her to be silent or he would forcefully dig her plot. He took her away to a cafe, and while they sat next to each other, Shizuku wondered what the heck she was doing there. Just then, some rogues appeared who happened to be Haru's friends, and one of them asked him for money. Haru handed the money over so the guy would remain his friend, and Shizuku thought he was just a big head with one-celled brain. After the guys left, Haru eagerly asked Shizuku how school was that day, and she told him to just come to school if he was really that concerned. However, he replied that he was scared because everyone was afraid of him for some reason and would end up avoiding him. He then told her she was the first person to ever visit him at home, and the friends she saw earlier were the first to hang out with him without getting scared. Shizuku bluntly said he was deluded, as no real friends would use him for money. This caused Haru to empty his cup on her face, and he walked away, calling her a bad person. She got angry and immediately went after him to throw her cream on his head before running away. The next day at school, the teacher asked Shizuku if she had told Haru to come to school, and she replied no, so the teacher said he might just be expelled after all. Hearing this, she headed to his home to inform him, but Mi told her Haru was not around. However, Mi told her to play baseball before she left, and while she struggled to make a single hit, she overheard Haru's acclaimed friends planning to ditching him because he refused to lend them money as usual. Feeling justified, Shizuku called Haru an idiot when she suddenly found him sitting close by with a sullen face, but she simply picked up her bag to leave, since it wasn't her business anyway. However, she suddenly found herself in front of the fake friends and told them they needed to be honest with Haru because he considered them his friends. One of the goofballs tried harassing her, but Haru grabbed him, lifted him off the ground, and told him to leave. After, Haru saw Shizuku off, but he cried as he followed behind her, surprising her. She hugged him and told him he would soon be surrounded by a lot of friends. Hearing this, he told her he would consider coming to school if she were there. Then he suddenly confessed that he loved her, but Shizuku quickly told him that he was misunderstanding his feelings because he had always been a loner. However, he told her his feelings wouldn't change and he would always love her. Following that, Ro resumed back to school, and over the next month, he was literally a pain in Shizuku's backside, so much that she was finding it difficult to study. One afternoon after school, Haru begged Shizuku to go eat dinner with him, but she turned him down because she had to prepare for the upcoming midterms. This was because she had thought she would give the opening ceremony speech when they resumed, but she couldn't because she finished second in the grade rating. Now, she wanted to be the first in the midterms. However, Haru easily solved her maths problem. Shizuku suddenly remembers that the student with the best grade never showed up to the speech and that the name of that student was Haru. From the next day, Shizuku started ignoring Haru, saying he was now her enemy till the midterms were over, so she could study properly. Shizuku was really mad and wondered why she was doing this, but when she headed to the library, an upperclassman grabbed her and took her to their class to punish her since they had seen her with Haru. She decided to continue studying on her knees, wishing she had never gotten involved in Haru's miserable life. Just then, Haru appeared, and seeing her, he got angry and swore to beat their behinds up. Shizuku tried to stop him, but got hit in the process as Haru went on to teach the seniors a lesson. Shizuku became pissed and harshly told him she was sick of their friendship and suggested they stop seeing each other. This made Haru sad and lonely afterwards. A few weeks later, when the midterm results were released, Shizuku topped the class, but she was surprised she wasn't happy even though she had achieved her goal. She went to meet Haru and told him she didn't actually hate him, but was happy that he came to save her that day. The two became friends again, and Haru decided to also read while she did, since it was something she really loved. Realizing that this was what caring for someone meant, she decided to go to dinner with him too, since that was what he had always wanted. However, on their way, Shizuku said something cool about Haru, and he suddenly grabbed her to kiss her, turning her red. At the dinner, Shizuku kept ordering food and eating like a glutton because she thought that would remove the embarrassment she was feeling. That night would be the beginning of a new rush of emotions for her. The next day at school, the teacher came to announce that everyone who failed the midterm had to rewrite it. And since Haru forgot to write his name on his scripts, he needed to rewrite the tests too. Meanwhile, Haru asked Shizuku if she was rewriting any tests, and when she replied no, he told her he wasn't going to rewrite them either. Just then, Shizuku realized that the only reason she topped the class in the midterms was that Haru didn't write his name on his papers. A hen suddenly jumped out of Haru's clothes, and the idiot explained that he saw it in the rain and had empathy for it. He then jumped out through the window immediately to put the hen up for adoption outside. Meanwhile, despite how crazy he was, Shizuku was surprised that she was now beginning to think about him, and when he showed up in her face, asking why she was ignoring him, her heart started thumping again like it would jump out of her chest as she remembered the kiss. She soon realized she was acting like she was in love and became shocked. On their way home that evening, Shizuku mentioned Haru's confession the other day and asked if it was a romantic one, but the thirsty Morin told her that he was down for clapping her at any time. Just then, a student jumped out of a dumpster to beg Shizuku to help her study. At a restaurant, the girl named Asako started ordering more plates as she ate because she was nervous and Haru wouldn't stop glaring at her like he could see her bare. Asako explained that she didn't want to take the remedial classes and needed Shizuku to help her pass her retakes. But Shizuku didn't waste time saying no. Shizuku and Haru got on their way immediately, but Asako quickly followed and said she didn't want to take the remedial classes because she didn't have time. She further explained that an online community she was in was having an offline meetup, so she couldn't go for the remedial classes, and seeing that she was a complete idiot, Shizuku declined again. While Asako begged her, Haru got interested in what she was talking about and offered to help her study, and in return, she would take him along for the meetup. Following this, Haru started teaching her, but the girl didn't understand jack because bro was just writing formulas and asking her to memorize them. Shizuku stepped out to sit with the chicken alone instead, but Haru soon appeared with cabbage to feed the hen because Asako had escaped for obvious reasons. Shizuku got curious and asked why he and Asako were so bent on making new friends since they were both weird anyway, and it was obvious why people were avoiding them. In response, Haru asked if she had ever felt completely empty inside and surrounded by darkness. Surprising her, he told her this always scared him, but he wasn't scared anymore because he now had her. However, Shizuku realized that as he spoke, he showed no emotions in his eyes, and it was as though he couldn't see her at all, even though she was right before him. The next day, Shizuku struggled to study because there was too much background noise in her soul based on her growing feelings for Haru, and as she planted her face on her table, this clueless buffoon saw her from outside and decided to reach out. He called himself Sasa and said he was interested in her because he wondered how she got a truant like Haru to come to school. Shizuku replied that Haru just wanted a friend and it didn't matter who. However, Sasa revealed that he went to the same former school as Haru, and throughout, bro didn't show up in class for a single day. So it meant it must have mattered who now that he was coming to school willingly. The bell rang and Sasa got on his way, but Shizuku called him to ask for a favor. Later, Shizuku returned to class to find Akasa frustrated and on the brink of giving up because her supposed tutor was more concerned about his chicken than her passing her tests. Shizuku told her she was meant to spend her time studying anyway, but Asako said of school. Her real self lived on the internet because there she had no problems and was surrounded by friends. Shizuku instantly gave her a reality check by saying she was into Lulu, but Asako said she didn't care if she was, because all that mattered was that she wanted to be close. But everyone always avoided her. Hearing this, Shizuku had pity on her and decided to show her the focus areas for the tests. But when she heard that the test was the next day, she stayed all night beating the knowledge into Asako's thick skull, while the real tutor just spent the night sleeping. The next day, Asako returned with gratitude, having managed to escape the remedial classes, but the following week, she came to school furious because Haru ended up damaging the essence of the meetup because he got into a fight again. Also, the girls had seen Asako's paper-bagged face and immediately distanced themselves from her. Just then, the teacher came in yelling at Haru for bringing a chicken to school even though she had warned him not to. So Shizuku told Haru that Sasa had offered to take care of the chicken. Later on the rooftop, Shizuku finally got some peace and quiet and fell asleep, but Haru soon found her. A few minutes later, she woke up on his lap and quickly got up, wondering when he had gotten there. However, she intended to go to class immediately, but Haru pulled her face back down and told her to sleep. Shizuku turned red quickly and began to think about how life had grown to become more comforting since she met Haru. She told him she was glad she met him and suddenly confessed that she loved him. She became embarrassed immediately and wondered why she said that, so she quickly said she was lying. Haru asked if she wanted to go out together, but she insisted that it was a lie, so he told her that it made him feel better that it was a lie. The next day, Sasa returned with a chicken, saying he had a cat in his house, and the last few days had been chaotic between the two animals. The teacher, Miss Seiko, appeared out of nowhere to yell again, and the students thought they might need to get a coop for the chicken and keep it at the school. So they told Miss Seiko to go help them get the permission from the authorities, and she soon returned with the news that it had been approved. They began to plan how to build a coop immediately, and while everyone brainstormed ideas, Shizuku was engrossed in thoughts of her confession, wondering if she should have accepted to go out with Haru. They headed to the store the next day to pick up materials for the chicken's coop, and while Shizuku looked through the shelf, she bumped into Haru's fake friends and became scared. Luckily, Sasa appeared at that moment and rushed in to throw his cart on their faces. Sasa and Shizuku escaped immediately, but the thugs chased after them. However, Haru was passing by, and seeing them, he grabbed one of the thugs in the air and flung him off in one swing. They all ran out of the store after this, and while Sasa went back to help Asako lift some heavy items, Haru mentioned how Shizuku had been acting strange. He told her she would have normally refused to look after the chicken and even go out over the weekend. Her doing this willingly seemed weird. Shizuku knew he was right, but denied it still. However, she was surprised by how perceptive he was. Sasa and Asako soon returned, and they all returned to Haru's home. They began making the coop, but sawing the wood was extremely difficult. And while they almost gave up, he offered to give them his chainsaw. Haru went to get it immediately, but while he was away, those degenerates appeared again and said they only wanted to talk. They expressed how Haru had been ignoring them, which they didn't like, and Sasa suggested they apologize. But Shizuku couldn't care less, telling them to do whatever, but not interfere with their building project. Just then, one of them suddenly said she was in love with Haru, immediately making her embarrassed. Haru came back at that moment, and seeing them made him pissed. This yellow-haired mofo swung his arm around Shizuku's neck, and Haru got into a fight immediately. A few moments later, Shizuku came up with an idea, asking the rogues to help them build a chicken coop to show they really wanted to make peace. Haru accepted immediately and started laughing like a fool as he welcomed them to join, surprising everyone that he was that easy. After a few hours of working, the dudes completed the coop, and Sasa brought the chicken to its new home, making everyone excited. On the way home that evening, Sasa and Asako left together, and Haru told Shizuku he wanted to spend more time with her. He told her that God decides when people get lucky or unlucky, so everything balances out in the end. And this had gotten him thinking for a while that if meeting her was his lucky moment, it balanced out everything else that had happened in his life, because only good things had happened to him since he met her. Hearing this made Shizuku give up and confess that she really loved him. She further said that she knew that he didn't want her affection, since he had said that her not loving him made him feel better. But now that she had fallen for him, she asked him what she was supposed to do. Haru replied that he loved her too, but his love was different from hers, and she might leave him if she realized what it was. He told her he was scared, and seeing this, she suggested that they start again, and she was ready to wait for him to fall in love with her. He became speechless as she walked away, probably wondering how things got to this. Suddenly, Haru received a message stating that someone called Yuzin was on his way, shocking him. So he grabbed Shizuku immediately and told her they should find somewhere to spend the night.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal.
A while later, they appeared in Shizuku's house, and seeing him, Shizuku's dad almost pissed his pants, wondering what his daughter was doing with a man. While she cooked for him, Shizuku couldn't believe she had initially had some naughty thoughts earlier when Haru asked them to find somewhere to spend the night. Meanwhile, Yuzin got to Haru's residence and realized that Haru was not coming home that night, so he took his seat and thought Haru was a coward. But he said Haru would not run forever. At the same time, Haru finished taking his bath and just stepped out to the living room without clothes. Shizuku quickly looked away as her heart started thumping fast, and she wondered if this was right, since her dad always walked around in his underwear anyway. She thought to sneak a peek, but was disappointed to see that bro was already fully dressed and asleep. She kicked him off the cushion and told him to go use the bed inside. As she left him that night, she observed that he had been acting quite strange, but she couldn't seem to place what was happening. The next day, while Shizuku prepared breakfast, Haru told her that something strange had happened to him while he slept, as a youngin just stood over his bed with a creepy look. She replied that it was her younger brother, and Haru just continued to state that he loved his yolk smashed. He then told Shizuku's dad that he didn't look at all like her, but the man wondered how the idiot was so casual about all this, like he owned the place. Several weeks later, the results of the final exams were released, and Haru shockingly topped the class, while Shizuku came in second place. This made her sad as she thought that she needed to study harder, no matter how Asako tried to make her feel good. Just then, the nonchalant Haru thought about summer break and suddenly mentioned that he loved bikinis, but Shizuku told him not to think she would follow him to the beach. She then stood up with her script and headed for the staff room to ask the teacher how the answers were scored. When she showed the teacher her script, answering why she didn't get the full mark in a section, and Seiko said her answers were not wrong, but it was not right either. Shizuku refused to accept because it was some silly question about heartbreak, and the teacher told her it was because Shizuku didn't yet know what it felt like. On her way back, however, Shizuku thought she sure knew what it felt like because Haru turned down her love, so she wanted to make him fall for her, but she was more curious about why she fell for a thing like that anyway. Just then, she walked past Haru, who asked if she was able to get some points back. Shizuku just came back to look at his face, and some girls kicked a ball toward Haru at that moment. They became scared and quickly retrieved the ball as they yeeted out of there. Shizuku then told him to stop glaring at people, as it would only make them avoid him. She said she loved it when he smiled instead and left, turning him red. From then on, Bro started smiling more, instantly rizzing all the girls so that they began to flock around him. He returned to class to tell Shizuku her trick worked because he was now popular, and everyone wanted to talk to him. However, Shizuku became jealous and went to feed the chicken. Asako noticed she was lonely and called it out, and during the sports class, Shizuku could no longer take how the girls were drooling over her crush. She started walking away, surprising Asako, who thought she was jealous, but Shizuku didn't deny it.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
The sports day was the next day, and Shizuku joined Asako in playing volleyball, even though her hand never touched the ball until she got hit on the face. Following that, Sasa came to report to the girls that everything was going well with the soccer match until Haru got too excited and punched the ref. Sasa said he hoped things worked out well for Haru this time, but Shizuku asked him what he meant by that. Sasa replied that Haru used to be very vicious back in their former school, and no one wanted to be his friend, so he stopped coming to school entirely. This prompted her to ask Sasa why he was so concerned about Haru, even though he didn't used to talk to him before now, and Sasa replied that he owed him. A few minutes later, Haru saw a dude bullying a girl and approached them immediately. The upperclassmen started poking fun at him, so he grabbed one of the girls and asked if she didn't mind spending the next few days in the infirmary. The dude suddenly punched him, and Haru immediately grabbed him, asking him why he was bullying the girl. He then gave him a beating, causing all the students to gather. He soon realized that everyone was watching and instantly felt terrible that he had scared everyone again. Meanwhile, Shizuku asked him what he was doing, and as soon as they heard a teacher's voice, she quickly grabbed him and yanked him out of there. In a safe location, he asked Shizuku if what he did was wrong, because this had happened once before. When he turned back and saw all the students glaring and stunned, he added that he didn't know why it always ended up this way, and Shizuku told him that while she couldn't say he was doing things the right way, she sure knew he was a kind person. Haru was surprised. He fondly touched her forehead, and the more he stroked it, the redder she became. The plot almost developed into a kiss, but Sasa interrupted.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Calling Haru for their next soccer match. As Haru left, he suddenly turned around and asked Shizuku on a date with him during the summer if they won the match, so she agreed. Fortunately, Haru won his end of the wager, and they all went to the beach during the summer break. However, while Haru and Asako swam, Shizuku and Sasa had to learn how to fish because they were beginners and couldn't swim. Later, while they roasted some fish, he got talking about his relationship with Haru, and then mentioned that Haru had an older brother. But Haru cut him off, saying he was talking a little too much already, shocking everyone. However, when they returned home that night, Haru suddenly saw his brother and ran out, surprising the others. However, be properly introduced that this was Haru's brother he was telling him about. Yuzin asked about how Haru had been doing, and Stasa revealed that Haru was now coming to school, thanks to Shizuku. Meanwhile, Shizuku felt a bit odd about Yuzin's presence. As she left for home that night, Yuzin strangely told her to keep an eye on Haru, and just as she thought he was weird, the weirder one suddenly pulled her to a corner. She asked him why he ran away like that, and Haru told her he hated his brother. She tried asking why, but he harshly told her to stop prying, so she stood up. Haru felt terrible, thinking she had left him, but he soon realized she was still there. She then told him to come over to her place so he could smash her watermelons. While smashing later, she wondered why he had made that scary face earlier and realized she didn't know him like she'd thought. He'd apologized for acting like a goofball earlier and asked what he could do for her in return for always having her back. She told him she wanted a date. Following that, Haru told me about his date with Shizuku, and he was happy that they were now together. But the cultured idiot started thinking about clapping on the date night, shocking Mai, who immediately warned him to trash those thoughts. Some weeks later, the second semester began, and Haru was happy to see his chicken. Just then, Shizuku was walking past with other students, and Haru told her that he realized he would get to see her every day again, unlike during the summer break. Shizuku turned scarlet instantly, and other students were surprised by how good his Riz game was. Later in class, Asako appeared looking sick, and when her friends asked her what was wrong, she told them she had a fever but forced herself to come to school. They instantly told her not to infect them too, and she shamefully used her mask. Then, Haru noticed Shizuku studying trigonometry, shocking Sasa because this was next year's maths. Shizuku got curious and asked Haru when he studied, but he told her he never, so she called him a liar, because there was no way he was passing his tests and exams if he wasn't. Haru revealed that he never attended his old school, so he used all the free time to study everything. He then switched the subject and asked her where she wanted to go for the date, but Shizuku replied, the library. In the next class, Shizuku couldn't stop thinking about how mysterious Haru was, and she wondered how much he was willing to reveal about himself and where he drew the line. After school that day, Shizuku told Haru she was going to the library, and while he wondered if this was really the date, they suddenly heard some girls causing a scene. When they realized it was because of Yuzin, Haru disappeared into the thin air instantly, shocking Shizuku as Yuzin approached her. She told him his brother just vaporized and tried to excuse herself, but Yuzin said he came to see her. This made Haru mad, as he was hiding, wishing he had taken Shizuku with him. As he came out of the bush he was hiding in, he scared the girl he had thrown hands for the other day. Surprised, he decided to ask her for a favor. Following that, the girl started to watch the area for him to inform him if Yuzin was there. While at it, he noticed she was a class rep and got hyped up because he thought that was the coolest thing to be in school, since everyone looked up to her. However, she said that was the case for her since her classmates only chose her because she wore glasses. He became curious about how he would look in glasses, and she told him he'd look good. This made him smile, and he told her she was a nice person, instantly making her throat dry in embarrassment. Haru soon ran off as he remembered Yuzin, leaving the nerdy girl drooling over his compliment. Meanwhile, Yuzin took Shizuku on an aimless walk around the city, yapping about his interest in sweets, but she was not interested in the crap he was saying. He soon left to get some pastries, and on his way, he thought that Haru would soon be there. Elsewhere, Haru was running around looking for them because Yuzin had sent him pictures of him having a nice time with his girl. Yuzin soon returned with a pack of donuts, and as they ate, he suddenly told her he needed Haru to quit school and go back home, shocking her. He revealed that their dad had chased Haru out of the house before he entered his old school, since he was quite the troublemaker. But now, their dad had suddenly changed his mind and wanted Haru to come back home, so he sent Yuzin to come get him. However, Haru hated Yuzin and wouldn't listen, and that was where Yuzin wanted Shizuku to come in. He wanted her to keep him in school. Shizuku was surprised because the dude literally said he wanted to bring Haru back home some minutes ago. Yuzin then explained that it was their dad who wanted Haru back. He himself didn't want it because Haru coming home would be the end of both of them. Yuzin further said that with Shizuku there, Haru would remain in school. Haru jumped in aggressively at that moment and warned Yuzin to stay away from them as he walked away with Shizuku. However, Shizuku stopped and told him to hear Yuzin out first, so Haru listened, and Yuzin told him to promise that he would go to school. Haru made a promise and turned to leave, but as he left, he told Yuzin not to appear before him again. Meanwhile, Yuzin reasoned that if their father changed his mind again, they might have to make some decisions. On their way, Haru asked Shizuku why she was with Yuzin, and she replied that she wanted to know more about Haru. Haru told her not to come near Yuzin again, but she refused, saying he could not order her around. Just then, Haru played the "I Thought You Loved Me" card, and Shisuke instantly glowed like a bulb. They continued walking, and Haru began to narrate his backstory to her, but he skipped the part that contained information about the 3 years at his old school. Shizuku asked him if he wanted to go back home, but he said no. She then touched his face and told him she didn't want him to leave because it'd make her sad. He smiled and told her he wanted to be with her. The next day at school, in the locker room, the nerdy class rep came to meet Haru and thanked him for defending her on sports day. Haru smiled as he acknowledged her, and the girl melted immediately. Meanwhile, Shizuku was also present, and as she walked off, she noticed the look on the girl's face screamed a lot more than just thank you. She was ready to risk it all. A new day rolled around, but Shizuku was clearly going through it. Girl couldn't focus on Jack because her feelings were doing the absolute most, and she was low-key confused about why this emotional chaos was hitting her so hard. Just then, a fax dropped in from her mom asking if she and her little brother were actually keeping up with their studies of school, which was honestly the last thing she needed right now. Meanwhile, across the school, this quiet girl with glasses named Oshima was texting her bestie Yu, who went to a completely different school. When Oshima transferred to this high school, she discovered that everyone had already locked into their friend groups, leaving her behind out in the cold. So she became the official class loner with no one to talk to. Later on, Oshima was just minding her business when she overheard some girls gossiping about Haru. Her heart straight up dropped when these chicks casually mentioned that bro was dating that girl he was always glued to. Back in Shizuku's classroom, the students were about to elect a class representative, and this fool Haru thought he could finesse the situation by putting on glasses to look more studious. Since Oshima had told him this was why they selected her as the class rep, he was extremely happy, and Shizuku wondered what the heck was wrong with him. But he became disappointed when absolutely nobody chose him for any position. After the class, his friends realized he was sad and wondered if that clown really thought he would be nominated. Soon after, Asako and Sasa were having a little gossip session about Oshima, speculating that she might be down bad for Haru. This made Shizuku jealous, but she pretended not to be bothered, stating that she was more concerned about her grades than some useless gossip. During lunch, Oshima was sitting alone on the staircase, eating like some sad anime girl, when Haru suddenly materialized beside her. He mentioned that her idea was terrible, because wearing glasses hadn't helped him secure the bag with the votes, surprising her that he was that dumb. Haru realized that she actually came out here to eat alone, and pointed out that even though she was the class rep, she didn't seem to have any friends, unlike anyone would have thought. He mentioned that he also used to be like that, but now he had friends. Oshima, all flustered, asked about Asako because she thought Haru was dating her. But this clueless buffoon clarified that Asako was just a friend and then straight up admitted he was in love with Shizuku. Oshima was shaken to her core, probably wondering why all the good ones were taken. Moments later, Asako appeared and caught them having this deep conversation. Haru told her they were just talking about them and explained that Oshima didn't have friends. This surprised Asako, probably because she also used to be a loner, and she took her to the library immediately for some kind of friendship meeting with the others. But Shizuku was dealing with too much emotional baggage and refused to join, walking away like she was allergic to human connection. The next day, during gym class, Oshima didn't have anyone to pair with since she was so infected with social anxiety. Shizuku appeared at that moment, also without a partner, and the teacher paired them together for stretches. Oshima took the opportunity to apologize for yesterday's mess, but Shizuku told her to speak up if they were bothering her. Oshima had to explain that they were not bothering her, prompting Shizuku to ask why she was timid. She replied that she wasn't. She just lacked the confidence to put herself out there. Later on, Oshima found herself alone on those stairs again because apparently that was her designated sad girl spot. Haru joined her and asked if she had seen Shizuku. Noting that she'd been avoiding him like he had the plague, Oshima took a deep breath and told him to forget about trying to help her make friends. Then she hesitantly asked if he loved Shizuku in a romantic way. And when Haru got visibly nervous, she quickly told him not to answer because his answer could make her more depressed. Just then, Asako appeared with Shizuku and Sasa, inviting everyone to come play, and seeing Haru and Oshima together again, Shizuku got a little jealous. While Asako and Sasa played tennis nearby, Haru, Shizuku, and Oshima awkwardly sat somewhere on the sidelines of the court. Haru finally asked Shizuku why she was avoiding him, and she dropped the bomb that her chest always beat fast and hurt whenever she thought about him, surprising Oshima that this girl was boldly expressing her feelings. However, the idiot dude thought she was sick and asked her to visit the nurse. Oshima, getting frustrated with how dumb he was, suddenly yelled at him, calling him clueless in more than 5 synonyms, shocking everyone. But then she realized she'd overstepped and ran off feeling embarrassed. Asako told Haru to follow her, and he ran after her immediately. When Haru caught up to Oshima, he asked if she was fine, and she replied that she was only moping by herself, so he gave her some motivational mumbo-jumbo that made her realize that she might be in love with him. Meanwhile, Shizuku was having a whole philosophical moment, reflecting on her childhood and the joy she used to find in studying. She realized that learning made her feel complete as it gave her purpose and a vision for her future. So she decided to eliminate every distraction, even love, because academic excellence was her true calling. On the day of their scheduled date, Asako and Sasa showed up at the batting center, only to learn from me that Haru and Shizuku were on a date. Sasa thought they were making progress, but me replied that Haru should be ashamed because Shizuku was the one expressing her feelings boldly. Later, Asako was sad thinking about the date, and she stated that Shizuku never shared anything with her, even though she thought they were friends. Me explained that Shizuku was just wired differently, but when she did open up, it was worth listening to. Meanwhile, in the library, where these two clueless buffoons were having their date, Shizuku sat across from Haru and quietly delivered the most devastating news that she was no longer attracted to him because she needed to focus on her studies since she wasn't a genius like him who didn't need to study hard. Haru was shocked and asked if he was a distraction to her, but she told him it was just something she had to deal with alone. Haru returned from that library date feeling absolutely crushed. Just then, me showed him a photo of Kyoko, Haru's aunt, and seeing her face triggered a whole flashback montage of the day she adopted him. The next day at school, Haru was sprawled out in the sun next to his chicken when Oshima showed up. He mentioned it had been a minute since they'd seen each other, especially since that day she had her emotional explosion. Oshima thanked him for the advice he'd given her and admitted she was feeling much better now. But then Haru told her that Shizuku shot him down, shocking her as she asked if he had confessed his feelings, but the idiot said no. Oshima encouraged him to express himself like an actual human being, but bro started talking like a sage even though he had no wisdom, hinting that he might just move on. And while they were having this heart-to-heart, Asako was lurking in the bushes, like some kind of romance detective. She eventually interrupted their moment, telling Haru not to give up and calling him a straight-up loser if he didn't keep trying as she ran off. But Haru thought she was drunk or something. Later, Haru was wandering around the school grounds with his chicken, complaining about how women always scolded him like he was some kind of victim. Then he remembered something Kyoko had told him once, that one day, he'd meet someone who made him feel at peace. At that exact moment, he spotted Shizuku sleeping by the library window and went over to her, waking her. She was acting hostile again, but out of nowhere, Haru told her he loved her. Shizuku was shocked but managed to keep her cool and calmly replied that she no longer felt anything for him. Haru said it was enough just to stay by her side, but then immediately asked her to go out with him. When she declined, he kept pushing, which led to a whole argument between them. Following that, Shizuku started acting wary around him. After the midterms test results were released a few weeks later, Haru topped the class again, with Shizuku in second place, and she became angry, wondering why she couldn't beat him. He casually told her he had put in a little more effort this time, just a little. With the smugness of someone who knew he was naturally gifted, Shizuku angrily stormed off, saying she needed to study harder because her whole identity was built on academic superiority. Haru remembered his aunt's words again and smiled as he said he was going to try harder too. Meanwhile, Asako successfully failed again as usual. Later, Shizuku went to her cram school support classes, where she ran into Yamaken, who asked her about Haru. After that, Shizuku handed Haru tickets to the upcoming festival. But the thirsty Morin took the opportunity to lick her hand. Shizuku pulled away instantly and warned him that if he kept acting like this, she would lose all trust in him. She then laid down the law that if he wanted to stay close to her, he needed to maintain at least 2 meters of distance. Haru got irritated by these reasonable boundaries and reacted by smashing some boards and venting to Asako. Asako had to explain to him that it was uncomfortable when someone you didn't like touched you inappropriately. But this only worsened how he felt. Not far away, Shizuku walked past and saw Sasa with some friends planning their festival stalls. She gave them useful suggestions, but then cheekily requested 50% of the profits. Later, during a meeting to assign festival positions, One of the senior students shoved Shizuku, and Haru, witnessing this disrespect, didn't waste time hitting him on the face. As a result of this, their group got stuck with the worst location at the festival, and Haru was sentenced to weed-pulling duty as punishment for his violent behavior. Oshima found him there and advised him to avoid violence if he truly cared about Shizuku. She formally introduced herself again and added that she wouldn't act with regret like he once suggested, but she'd learned to keep things bottled up inside. Meanwhile, Shizuku was listening from a corner and wondered why she was hiding from him. That afternoon, Shizuku, Asako, and Sasa went to check her cram school grades. On the way, she bumped into Yamaken and his squad. Yamaken walked with her to see the results because he was clearly interested in more than just her academic performance. She asked why he hung out with such dim-witted boys, and he simply said they were fun to be around. Shizuku discovered she had the highest score and reassured herself that she was on the right path by putting her feelings for Haru aside. When she rejoined Asako and Sasa, they were still dealing with Yamaken's friends, who were pestering Asako for festival tickets like annoying mosquitoes. Since Asako refused to give in, Shizuku handed over both her own ticket and Haru's, saying she didn't need them. As night fell, Haru came home to find Shizuku waiting for him, and she handed him a small package from Asako. Seeing that Haru looked like he had something to say, Shizuku spoke first and firmly told him she would never fall in love with him. But he replied that he would change her mind, leaving her absolutely stunned by his confidence. He took the bag from her and offered to walk her home, but he seized the opportunity and tried to kiss her. However, he suddenly remembered Asako's lecture about boundaries and actually stopped himself. Shizuku was already frozen and almost red. She snatched her bag back and ran off. She told herself she was doing the right thing, but deep down, she couldn't understand why her heart was still doing somersaults. The school festival finally arrived, and Shizuku's class had set up a haunted mansion. Yamaken's crew showed up looking for entertainment and got greeted by Shizuku in a nurse's costume, acting as their tour guide. This left them wondering what a study bug like her was doing in such a costume. Haru soon appeared dressed as a vampire, pulling a dead body, shocking them. Haru sprayed fake blood on the boys, who immediately asked him to introduce them to some girls, because they got their priorities right. Outside in the backyard, Shizuku sat alone, having a whole crisis about losing control of her emotions the night before. She felt bad for yelling at Haru, even though he didn't do anything wrong, but at the same time, she was surprised that he was all chill about it, while she struggled to understand what she was feeling. Meanwhile, Yuzin appeared at the festival, and me asked him why he came. Yuzin replied that he had heard how much Haru put into planning for the festival, and thought Haru would be really upset if he showed up, so he had to take the chance. Yamaken walked over to where Shizuku was, but said he was only passing, so he continued walking like he knew where he was going. However, a few moments later, he returned to the same place and was confused about how he got there again. Knowing he had missed his way, Shizuku asked him why he didn't just ask the students for help to navigate, but he told her he didn't like asking people for help. Asako appeared at that moment to call Shizuku, and as they left, Shizuku asked if he would join them. Meanwhile, Yamaken's crew was disappointed that this idiot only brought them to a chicken when they thought he was going to pimp them with some sleazy chicks. Just then, Shizuku appeared with Yamaken and Asako, and seeing them, Haru asked what Shizuku was doing with Yamaken. Yamaken, seeking to provoke him, immediately grabbed her to make him think they had been having some fun time. Haru asked her why she was allowing Yamaken to touch her, when she had firmly warned him not to. Yamaken replied that it was because Shizuku couldn't stand Haru, annoying him so much that he immediately threw a punch, but Shizuku got hit instead. This made her angry, and she told him she was permanently banned from getting close to her. She walked away, but Asako followed to comfort her and offered some advice, but Shizuku shut her down, saying it wasn't her business. The rejection left Asako looking absolutely crushed. Meanwhile, Yamaken was blamed by his friends for being the cause of the chaos that had just happened, so he went to meet Shizuku with ice for her bruised nose to free himself from the guilt, but Shizuku still blamed him for everything. Yamaken suddenly asked her if she wanted to know why she couldn't break free from him, and went on to say it was because she had high expectations of him, but wasn't willing to fulfill Haru's expectations, which was very cruel of her. On their way back to the festival, Shizuku felt guilty for treating Asako and Haru like that. Yamaken asked her if she wouldn't feel lonely if she chased everyone away like that, but she replied that she had always been alone anyway and never felt lonely. Yamaken revealed that there was no way she would feel lonely in the first place if there was no one around, instantly making her realize the truth. Just then, Yamaken suddenly spotted Yuzin and immediately dragged Shizuku into an empty classroom. panicking and wondering why he was there. Shizuku was surprised. She knew him and asked if he was scared of Yuzin, but Yamaken denied, saying he had just suffered a traumatic experience in the past. Haru soon badged into the same classroom with Oshima, breathing heavily. Apparently, he had also escaped from Yuzin. He was pissed that Yuzin didn't fulfill his promise. He reasoned that today was just an unlucky one for him, and then suddenly asked Oshima if she would be unhappy if he told her he liked her. Oshima glowed red instantly, and while she wondered what to say, he told her that things only got worse whenever he told Shizuku about how he felt. He thought he might have to resort to force. Hearing this, Yamaken asked Shizuku what she thought, and she said she had no comments. Just then, Oshima asked Haru what he would do if she also confessed that she loved him. He nervously dismissed it instantly, telling her her joke was funny, but she told him she meant it in a man-to-woman kind of way. Haru was shocked and thought she wanted him to clap her. Shizuku was not having it anymore and stood up to leave immediately, but Yamaken deliberately grabbed her to make Haru jealous. But before Haru could start another fight, as always, Yuzin walked into the room. Haru immediately panicked and grabbed Oshima in a protective hold, but when he saw that everyone was staring at him like he was a criminal, he ran away barefoot without even taking his shoes. Yuzin approached Shizuku, but Yamaken stepped between them protectively, finally conquering his fear. Yuzin simply handed over Haru's abandoned shoes, asked Shizuku to return them, then left with Oshima. Somewhere else, Asako was crying alone because of what Shizuku did until he found her and provided some comfort. Sasa eventually joined them, surprised to see Asako crying, but she told him it was a long story. Shizuku later found Haru and returned his shoes while telling him he needed to start thinking before acting irrationally. Haru admitted that he made a mistake again, but reminded her that she wanted a 2-meter distance. Shizuku apologized and asked to take back her words, making him happy. Haru accepted her apology and left to make things right with Oshima. Shizuku also found Asako and gave her a sincere apology for treating her the way she did. Asako burst into tears again, and just then, Haru reappeared out of a bush with his chicken. Sasa jokingly reminded everyone that the festival was still happening, and they needed to get back to work, and they all went to have fun. As night fell and the festival ended, Haru waited for Shizuku to finish cleaning up, and fell asleep in the process. When she returned and saw him resting, she reached out to touch his hair, but Haru grabbed her hand before she could. He frankly asked her to make her choice, because she kept telling him she didn't like him anymore, but still acted like she did. Shizuku was honest with him, and explained that thinking about him too much completely derailed her ability to study, surprising him, and he pulled her in for a hug. She then told him that she needed more time to figure out their relationship. Shizuku woke up to find Haru chilling in her room and wondered how he got in, only to realize that dude had climbed in through the window like some kind of delinquent Spider-Man. He mentioned that her dad didn't allow him in before he didn't know school was off that day, so he took the law into his own hands. He also revealed that her dad had told him he wasn't going to the store today, and hearing that, Shizuku immediately headed downstairs to ask her father why he was at home. The lazy old man sadly revealed that the store had been shut down, shocking Shizuku, who immediately felt terrible for leaving the business entirely in his care. She turned to call her mom and report him, but her mom was not so surprised because she knew her husband was a failure in definition. However, she was more concerned that she wouldn't be able to retire early. Meanwhile, Haru was clueless about everything and asked Shizuku why he was sulking that much, only for the man to shamelessly reveal that this was the 6th time the business had collapsed. Haru thought he was hopeless, and the man agreed because his wife had to work a lot to make sure they were all fine. Also, his offspring were lonely because of their useless father. However, Haru told him that Shizuku wasn't lonely and had friends like him. Following that, while Sasa, Asako, and Haru studied in the library, Sasa revealed that he used to have a girlfriend in his old school and asked Haru if he remembered a particular girl in their class. But the idiot just realized that he even went to the same school as Sasa. Naughty Haru then asked if he did it with that girl, making Asako uncomfortable. But Sasa replied that the girl dumped him faster than your dad left you to get milk. Asako became curious about Haru's thing with Shizuku, and the moron said that Shizuku told him she would think about their relationship a month earlier. Asako was shocked and realized that the reason the two were not making progress with their love was that Haru was too satisfied with how things were and was putting in no effort. Haru expressed that he thought things would be better if he were in a relationship, but nothing had changed. Meanwhile, Shizuku had been hearing them and was shocked to remember that she actually had been keeping Haru waiting for a whole month. Moments later, on their way home, Haru brought up her father's situation, which made her start talking about her mother's constant work schedule. She admitted wanting to become a career woman just like her mom. She then told him that they used to have a pot for holding water in their yard. They were going to keep goldfish in it, but it didn't work out, which made her very disappointed. Hearing this, Haru grabbed her hand and ran to a river, intending to catch a crayfish for her. Shizuku became frustrated because how more clueless could this bozo get? A few days later, Yamaken ran into Shizuku in the library, and while they talked, she told him she had come because of him, making him wonder if she was interested in him. He asked why Haru was not with her, and she said bro was bent on catching a crayfish for her even though there was no freaking way he would find a crayfish in November. This made Yamaken think that Haru's brain had stopped developing a long time ago. Just then, Shizuku told Yamaken that she really loved the advice he gave her the other day, surprising him so much that the book in his hand fell off. Following that, at a cafe, Asako sat with Sasa, waiting for their friends, when a group of girls from her class walked in. She immediately tried hiding behind the menu because these girls were known for mocking her. As they saw her, they wasted no time starting to whisper judgments again, and while she almost burst into tears, the beta male, before looking clueless as ever, he entered the cafe at that exact moment and stared down the mean girls so much that they quickly left. Seeing this, Asako instantly began to blush like an anime girl who had just found her crush. Later that evening, Yamaken and Shizuku said their goodbyes, and after she left, he wondered why he was helping her analyze the state of her mind earlier that day. He realized he might be falling in love already and wondered why it had to be the same girl Haru loved. He soon realized he still had her pen with him. Meanwhile, on the bus, Shizuku had a flashback to when her mom announced that she would now have to work since her husband was a failure. She also thought about his and concluded that it was a waste of time to bother with anything uncertain. Meanwhile, Shizuku rejoined her friends and noticed Haru was still stationed by the river. Haru told her he couldn't find a crayfish but promised to give her something better. However, she wondered why he was so concerned about the things she found meaningless. Yamaken Zuber soon drove past, and he saw Shizuku and friends hanging out, so he decided to pull over. When Haru separated from the others, Yamaken approached him and threw the pen for him to catch, telling him to give it back to Shizuku. Haru gave a straight face and wondered why he had what belonged to Shizuku, to which Yamaken replied that he had run into her in the library earlier that day. As Yamaken turned to leave, Haru suddenly asked him if he loved her, and Yamaken asked if there was a problem with that before walking away. One day, Shizuku discovered an anonymous invitation to a Christmas party stuffed in her locker, but she ignored it only to find it again in her backpack and realized someone was being seriously persistent. She immediately confronted Asako, who immediately admitted to it, saying she only wanted to surprise her. The party day finally arrived, and Shizuku went shopping with Haru and Asako to prepare. But on their way, Haru started acting weird like he was having social anxiety, and he almost sent Santa Claus back to the North Pole. Shizuku wondered what was wrong and thought that her plan to talk to him would no longer be possible because of how weird he was acting. When they entered a fast food place to buy chicken, they randomly bumped into Yamaken and his crew. When the boys realized that they were going for the Christmas party, they said they were gonna come too, but Asako showed them that they needed to have a ticket and be chosen to be there. However, the boys said they would go anyway because they were bad boys and could go anywhere they wanted. Shizuku asked Yamaken if he was coming too, and when he said yes, Haru interrupted and told him no. Yamaken wondered why Haru was against him coming along, and Haru replied that it was because he had said he was in love with Shizuku. Everyone became shocked, but Yamaken quickly responded that he was only joking, causing everyone to laugh and instantly changing Haru's mood. However, Yamaken was secretly angry with Haru for having such a loose mouth, and he wondered he even said what he said that night. They'd all headed to the batting center, where the party was actually happening. And he was surprised because no one told him a party was holding, but he allowed them anyway as long as they kept quiet. However, Yamaken's crew were scared of me, who had once warned them to stay away from Haru, or he would break their legs. They were convinced me must have unalived someone before, and hearing this, Asako just stared at Mai, probably sizing his magnum in her head, and when he waved at her, she became shy, leaving me wondering what was wrong with her. Meanwhile, Sasa spotted Oshima on his way to the event, and told her Asako had been worried about her since she wasn't picking her phone. He asked her if she wasn't coming for the party, but Oshima was surprised that there was any party because she thought the Christmas invitation was a prank. Sasa asked if she was coming though, and she said no, but while walked away, Sasa advised her to come because it would be a lot of fun. When they arrived, two idiots got visibly excited seeing another girl, and they immediately tried to greet her. Yamaken recognized Oshima and asked Shizuku how she was going to respond to her rival now that she was there, but Shizuku said it was not her problem. Meanwhile, Mi noticed that Asako was deliberately avoiding him, and Sasa quickly figured out the reason behind her behavior. Asako had developed feelings for Mai, which left Sasa feeling disappointed because he had been hoping for something more between them. At that moment, Mi looked over to Haru's side and felt happy seeing how much Haru had changed since he now had friends and was slowly learning how to be a normal human being. As the party continued, Oshima felt completely out of place and struggled with basic social interaction, but Sasa encouraged her to just be herself and ignore everyone's reactions. Meanwhile, Shizuku was still studying during the party, and Oshima asked if she would attend winter cram school sessions, and Shizuku confirmed her plans. Yamaken mentioned he would be attending too, which immediately got Shizuku interested, and seeing them, Haru became jealous. So he secretly went to ask me if he could attend cram school as well, but me told him they were too broke to afford it, and whereas Haru didn't need the class anyway, leaving him disappointed. Back at the batting area, Yamaken's friends were enjoying themselves while Asako met Yamaken in a corner. She told him that he had no chance with Shizuku, and he almost broke her face in his palm because of the trash she was spewing. Oshima appeared at that moment, and he used the opportunity to reveal that Oshima had also confessed to Haru, telling Asako to scold her too. But Asako said that Oshima already knew her place, which made Oshima feel even worse about the whole situation. Later that night, as the party wound down, Haru met Yamaken by the stairs, and Yamaken made a ridiculous proposal, offering to be Haru's friend in exchange for Shizuku, since Haru had always wanted friends. However, Haru immediately rejected this, saying he didn't need him if he had Shizuku. Haru further said that Shizuku was his, and Yamaken asked what if Shizuku said she liked him better. This made Haru angry, and just as he raised his hand to swing Yamaken, Shizuku called out to him to say she was going home. Haru immediately asked to walk her home, but before he left, he warned Yamaken to stay away from Shizuku. During their walk home, Haru brought up the winter prep classes again, with jealousy creeping into his voice. He didn't like the idea of Shizuku spending time with Yamaken, so Shizuku held his hand and confessed that she loved him, reassuring him that he had nothing to worry about. This finally made Haru smile, and the selfish buffoon asked if this meant she was not attending the cram school, shocking her. When the winter course began, Shizuku arrived at the cram school with Yamaken, while Haru had followed them there, asking her why she was still attending the cram school even though he was against it. Shizuku first ignored him, but finally snapped and yelled him to stop interfering with her studies, which hit Haru like a brick. Following that, Shizuku and Yamaken were sitting in their cram school classes when she casually mentioned being hungry. Yamaken briefly thought about inviting her to dinner, but before he could make any move, he realized that she had already bought her food, making him disappointed. Coming from a wealthy background, Yamaken was used to getting whatever he wanted, and this made him wonder what he was doing in such a stuffy prep class. He had fallen so hard for Shizuku, even though she barely acknowledged his existence. Later at school, Sasa was showing the boys photos from the Christmas party, and while Haru liked the photos that captured himself and Shizuku, he soon spotted one where Yamaken was looking at Shizuku like his prey, and immediately tossed it aside. Asako went to pick it up the photo and noticed me in the background, which made her visibly nervous, so she quickly hid it. Sasa asked her what she was doing, but girl said she was only clapping. Meanwhile, Yamaken was heading out to cram school, which prompted on his friends to ask if he was really interested in studying or just wanted to be with Shizuku. But Yamaken replied that he was not a fool like that. On his way, another friend came to report that a chick from a different school wanted Yamaken to ask her out. But Yamaken called it trash even though he knew that girl was pretty as heck. He thought that getting pretty girls would never be a problem for him. But why was he so into Shizuku, who was probably at the bottom of the spectrum? He ran into a backside that looked like Shizuku's, but as he happily approached, he discovered it was some old grandma who was few inches away from her grave. A girl nearby stared at him, but he ignored her completely and kept walking. Soon after, he encountered the real Shizuku and briefly contemplated hitting on her as he walked behind. A bicycle rushed past and Yamaken instinctively pulled Shizuku aside, holding her in a protective embrace. At that exact moment, Haru appeared and smacked him on the head, telling him to stay away from Shizuku. This made Yamaken angry, and they almost got into a fight, but Shizuku scolded Haru for following her again. The two got into an argument, with Shizuku telling Haru that her studies were still important, but Haru wasn't cool with it. She continued walking with Yamaken, and he jokingly pretended to hug her again just to mess with Haru, provoking Haru into angrily throwing a can at him, but it ended up hitting Shizuku instead. Her piercing glare made it crystal clear just how furious she was. Later in class, Yamaken touched the bump on his head from Haru's attack, and Shizuku became concerned. Shizuku apologized, but Yamaken asked why she did, and she revealed that she decided to confess to Haru again, but it only made him of Yamaken. Yamaken acted cool and pretended like he was some sage with a degree in romantic relationships. Shizuku asked what he thought. The depraved idiot asked her to have dinner with him if she really wanted to know. Meanwhile, Shizuku noticed the bump on his head and offered to help by putting ice on his injury. However, he told her it was okay, even though his heart wanted it, and Shizuku didn't even bother to push. She then told him it would be best if he kept some distance from both Haru and herself, but this only made Yamaken think she was bragging. However, Shizuku replied that she wasn't bragging. It only showed how appealing Yamaken was for him to have made Haru jealous. As class ended, Yamaken felt somewhat pleased because Shizuku thought he was appealing, and he smiled so hard thinking about it. His mood shifted when he noticed the same girl from earlier staring at him again, but he ignored her more and left quickly. The girl turned out to be Yu, Oshima's bestie, and she told Oshima she just saw a guy smiling like a fool. Later that evening, Yamaken got lost and randomly ended up where Haru was hanging out. He instantly remembered that Haru had tried to push him off the stairs that night of the Christmas party, and he feared that he might be in danger. Being alone with him, Haru invited him to walk together, and as they walked, Yamaken had a flashback to how he used to act unfriendly to Haru when they were young. Haru grew up into a delinquent boy who always got into a fight, and seeing how calm he was now, Yamaken told him that he had changed. Haru was surprised, but he told him he was still the same. Only Shizuku was changing, and he wondered if she would leave him behind soon. Haru further said this made him consider tearing her arms and legs off, and Yamaken called him a psychopath. But he affirmed that he wouldn't do such though, which was why he was always looking up, or whatever the heck that means. As Yamaken got into his Uber, Haru told him he wouldn't do it to Shizuku, but no one else was exempted. However, Yamaken kicked him away and called it an empty threat. Some moments later, it started to rain and Haru sat in the downpour, having deep thoughts about how his relationship with his brother had gone from admiration to complete rejection. Shizuku arrived and saw him waiting for her in the rain. She wondered how she was supposed to react to this, and he told her she was his hero, because she was always there whenever he wanted to see her. He suddenly pulled her into his arms and confessed that he loved her. He asked her why he had to be the only one restraining himself, leaving her wondering what he was talking about. He then explained that he had wanted to storm into her class and mess everything up. However, he didn't want her to hate him, nor did he want her to leave him either. Shizuku went speechless, not knowing how to respond. She had always thought everything would work out if she expressed how she felt. Just then, Haru told her he wanted her, but she told him that was not happening and wondered why they kept clashing. It just seemed like they were always completely out of sync with each other. Meanwhile, Asako strutted into the center to hand something over to Sasa, who was busy chatting with his squad. Out of nowhere, one of his friends decided to play wingman and shoved poor Yana, an ugly dude who had been crushing on Asako. Asako was disgusted by the whole circus act and left without a word, so Sasa quickly followed after her to apologize on their behalf. She told him this was why she hated boys. They didn't mind embarrassing anyone just for their fun. However, Sasa wasn't buying that and told her it was her fault for letting it get to that point, but she turned on him and said he was just like his friends. She soon realized she was harsh and went on to express how frustrated she was about her friendships. She even mentioned that she was finding it difficult to talk to Mai, and Sasa said he thought that was because she was in love with Mai. Asako turned red instantly and immediately denied, saying she would never fall in love with someone that old. Just then, Haru burst in like he'd just won the lottery, and they both got curious about why he was practically glowing, so he spilled the tea with the biggest grin. Shizuku had promised to go on a picnic with him the following year to any location of choice on the condition that he would behave till she was done with her prep school. Haru and Asako were shocked that Haru didn't realize he had been bribed. Haru told them they could come too, and while Asako was excited, Sasa felt indifferent. The next day, Shizuku was surprised that her strategy worked as she left for her cram school, telling Haru to enjoy the rest of the year. Asako asked Haru if he really liked this, and he said Shizuku had promised to go out with them in the new year. However, Asako pitied him for how clueless he was and suggested they hang out. During their hangout, Haru told Asako that he was worried about her, and remembering what Sasa said, she became embarrassed again. After their brief hangout that day, Haru waved Asako goodbye and she realized that she wouldn't see any of her friends till the new year. Several days passed with everyone enjoying their holidays as best as they could, but Asako was just alone at home with no one to talk to. On the New Year's Eve, she suddenly received a call from Shizuku and almost cried upon hearing from her. Shizuku made some inquiries for her younger brother, and while she prepared to end the call, Asako couldn't hold it again and opened up that she was lonely. Following that, she appeared in Shizuku's house with Haru for an impromptu sleepover. Her parents were off visiting grandma, so they had the whole house to themselves for their little party. Later that night, they were all knocked out when Asako's phone rang. It was Sasa, inviting them to come to the New Year's festival immediately. They got to the location, and while Haru and Asako were thrilled to see the crowd, Shizuku felt that they were past curfew time, but Asako told her it was okay because it was Japanese tradition. Things soon went sideways when Haru and Yamaken's crew started throwing hands with some random dudes. Yamaken put two and two together, thinking that if Haru was at the festival, then Shizuku had to be somewhere nearby. So he went on a mission to track her down. When he finally found her, he tried to be all gentlemanlike and buy her some festival food, but Shizuku insisted on paying for her own stuff and left. Asako then told him that he couldn't bribe his way into Shizuku's heart, so he got angry and grabbed her face. After they left, Yamaken wondered if he had to confess his feelings clearly like Haru did. A few moments later, Asako, Shizuku, and Haru met Oshima and her bestie, and while Asako and Oshima spent some time together, Asako noticed Oshima staring at Haru and Shizuku, and she asked if it had to be Haru, because she would be obviously happier if she liked someone else. But Oshima replied that she couldn't stop herself from thinking about Haru. Later that night, he gave them access to the rooftop so they could watch the sun rise, and while everyone cheered, Asako saw Yana and walked away from him, making him sad. Mi told her she was hurting him and asked her to be a little nicer. Asako replied that she didn't know how to act to Yana after being so mean to him the last time. She finally expressed that she hated boys who tried to hit on her, but Mi told her it was pretty normal. He told her he loved girls too, prompting her to ask if he wanted to fall in love, and he replied that love was good because it always changed people either for good or worse. He added that the best kind of love helped anyone to grow up, and she suddenly asked him if they could both grow up together, leaving him speechless. Meanwhile, Sasa was eavesdropping, and he returned to Yana to tell him that it seemed like his plan had backfired. A few minutes later, as the sun rose up in the sky, everyone cheered, but he was not all that thrilled because he had seen this too many times. Haru told Shizuku that this was fun, and that everything was fun whenever he was with her. He then asked them to do this again the following year. Meanwhile, Sasa noticed that Asako had wandered off to sulk alone somewhere. The holiday season rolled through like a boring movie montage. Shizuku spent her break locked up at home, drowning in textbooks like some kind of study hermit, but her brain kept wandering to Haru since she hadn't seen him since New Year's. Then, out of nowhere, she heard Haru yell her name and wondered if she was hearing something. Haru suddenly appeared in her window, dressed like he was about to go bug hunting in a post-apocalyptic world. He said he was searching for him, but didn't reveal who before vanishing again, leaving her wondering why he was in a rush. However, she found out that he had forgotten his phone. Later, Haru crashed into Asako and asked if she'd seen him, but she stood there looking more confused than someone trying to solve advanced calculus. Realizing that she didn't understand, he bolted off again, telling her to reach out to him that she found him. This time, he left a net behind. The same thing happened when he bumped into Sasa and his baseball crew. He said a few words and then disappeared, forgetting his goggles this time. As Shizuku continued to study, Haru's phone suddenly rang, but she ignored it. It continued ringing, and she picked it up to find out it was Sasa calling. Sasa was equally worried about why Haru was acting strangely and asked what Shizuku was going to do with the phone Haru had left behind. Meanwhile, Yamaken's buddy Joy had just gotten his appendix yanked out, so Yamaken and the gang decided to take him on a little fresh air adventure. At the same time, Asako headed to the batting center to return the net Haru had left with her, but no one was there, and she saw a little note from Mei. Just then, Shizuku arrived. She came to drop Haru's phone too, and when she realized that no one was around, she thought to leave it with Asako. However, Asako told her to give it to him by herself, but Shizuku replied that she was in the middle of studying and had to return. Asako eventually took the phone and stayed back while Shizuku took her leave. During Yamaken and friends' casual stroll, Haru suddenly appeared again, still looking for whoever the heck him was. He dropped his gloves and keys before running away again, leaving Shizuku wondering what Shizuku saw in him. Sasa soon arrived at the batting center with the goggles and decided to stay with Asako, together with his friends. Meanwhile, he was on her way when she saw a chicken and immediately sent its picture to Oshima. Seeing it, Oshima called her immediately and told her it belonged to Haru. Yu carried the chicken and started walking around with it, looking for the batting center when Shizuku met her. They both headed to the batting center together, and it was at that moment that they all realized that Haru had been looking for the chicken. They thought of going to look for him, and while they wondered where he might be, Yamaken told them to count him out as he walked away. Shizuku also said she was leaving, and as she stepped out of the center, she and Yamaken parted ways. However, Yamaken lost his way again and crossed Shizuku, who then directed him. Meanwhile, Asako and others started searching for Haru all around the city, and after a while of fruitless search, Sasa advised them to go back because Haru could have returned to the batting center. However, she said they should keep looking as Haru would call them if he were back. Apparently, she was only doing this because she was too scared to see Mai. Just then, Juji started bleeding because his wound had reopened due to the stress, and he fainted, causing his friends to panic. Shizuku soon came across Haru, who was still searching for him, and she told him that they had found the chicken. However, Haru didn't even realize the chicken was missing. He revealed that he was looking for a glowing bug and wanted to catch it so he could watch it with her. She blushed and then asked them to head back to the batting center because everyone was looking for him. He gave him his helmet and took her load from her. But as he walked up the stairs, he suddenly saw the glowing bug he had been looking for. He called Shizuku's attention, and she stared at it like she was witnessing actual magic, and thought that it was the most gorgeous thing she'd ever laid eyes on. In that quiet, she wondered if the day would ever come that she'd look at Haru with an honest and sincere affection. If you enjoyed this recap, smash the like button and comment clap in the comment section. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're yet to for more action, plot-filled adventures. If you want another anime recap like this, watch this video right here.